When I contact constituents in my home state of South Australia via phone canvassing or in meetings, the issues raised with me, number one, number two, number three, are the cost of living crisis, concerns about inflation, the impact on household budgets of things like power prices, the concerns from small business about the impact of power prices, the rising costs of insurance, the impact on industry, particularly those energy-intensive industries, about the rising cost of prices. In my home state of South Australia, despite all of the rhetoric from this government about their transition to cheaper renewables, South Australia pays the highest price for electricity in Australia at 45.5 cents per kilowatt-hour, which is amongst the most expensive in the world. So, with these pressures on businesses who employ Australians, these pressures on households, people need a government, a Prime Minister, a leader who takes the issues seriously and who they can trust. And so the response was vicious, to say the least, when this Prime Minister tweets a ill-thought-through copy of a pop album cover to try and promote what he believes is good news from the government, and people say, "You're a joke." They also wonder who they can trust when they see the Prime Minister standing in front of a press conference and saying that the Governor of the Reserve Bank of Australia didn't say the things that she very clearly did say about the inflationary impacts of government spending. When the Prime Minister directly contradicts not only the words but the policies of the Independent Reserve Bank of Australia and its governor, he calls into question some of the underpinnings of Australia's economic system and the integrity of one of our key public officials. It is no wonder that in the press, in news articles in days following, we see comments like, and I quote, "Denial and blame shifting was the name of Albanese's game," end quote. And it's only because of the role of the parliament and holding the Prime Minister to account that he has now backtracked on those claims. So Australians, whether they are mums and dads at home or people running a small business employing other Australians or large firms seeking to manufacture things here in Australia, they cannot trust Prime Minister Albanese and his policies or his words. And we see that particularly in the area of the cost of living and the cost of electricity in the energy policy. I have risen in this place previously to explain why the words and the policies of both Minister Bowen and Prime Minister Albanese are at odds with global experts from people like the International Energy Agency and the OECD as to the impact of seeking to achieve net zero by 2050 based on a renewables-dominated energy system. Despite the words mouthed by Mr Bowen and Mr Albanese, evidence from overseas, both in terms of engineering and economic analysis, borne out by the lived experience of other nations, show that the pathway this government has Australia on is making a bad situation worse. The OECD analysis highlights that where we're at the moment, with rising power prices, is just the start of a trajectory which will be unaffordable for advanced economies if the transition is based on renewables only, which is the current plan of the government. And independent experts here in Australia have highlighted that the true cost of the Albanese's approach will be in the trillions of dollars rather than the billions of dollars which the coalition is proposing, with the change to our energy system to include baseload power from clean, modern nuclear reactors. And the lived experience of nations overseas, including, for example, the province of Ontario, is that with the majority of their power from nuclear, they are paying 13 cents per kilowatt-hour compared to South Australia's 45.